The hero of Blade Runner is not Rick Deckard. Deckard is the villain. Deckard is retired from his former job as a replicant hunter, or Blade Runner. He is drafted back into service by Bryant, his former boss. Bryant informs Deckard of exactly what he's up against. 4 escaped replicants, or skin jobs to employ the pejorative, have escaped a slave colony and have come to Earth. They have been seen trying to infiltrate the Tyrell Corporation. Tyrell is the maker of the replicant workers and seems to control the comings and goings of the people off-world. Deckard wants nothing to do with this job, but Brian reminds him in standard noir fashion, if you're not cop, you're little people. Deckard reluctantly takes the job. Brian first sends him to the Tyrell headquarters in the Grand Pyramids at the center of the city. Upon meeting Tyrell and Rachel, Deckard recites a truly encapsulating, if not inaccurate, description of replicants.
Replicants are like any other machine. They're either a benefit or a hazard. If they're a benefit, it's not my problem.
A revealing moment happens when Deckard discovers that Rachel is a new type of replicant. She is unique in that she is unaware of the fact that she was built, not born. The theme of identity is now established. Deckard simply finds it mind-boggling that self-awareness is absent from this new form of replicant. The differences that divide man and machine are growing smaller. His job has become more difficult. When Deckard returns home, he finds a newly enlightened Rachel at his door. She suspects she is a replicant. Deckard invites her in and immediately begins belittling her, telling her with no sense of tact or understanding that she is not like him. She leaves hastily, leaving Deckard alone in his comfort zone. Deckard tracks down Zora, one of his targets. I have always wondered what stops Deckard from just shooting Zora in the head when first meeting her. He can kill with impunity. Instead, he tries to fool her into thinking that he is some kind of an inspector. Is he just not sure that it's her? Zora sees through his ruse and begins pummeling him. Deckard's instincts or programming kick in and he chases her until he finally guns her down. Leon witnesses Zora's murder and corners Deckard quickly. Rachel shows up and shoots Leon with Deckard's gun. Deckard tells her that he owes her one and will not be taking her down in the same fashion as Zora. We begin to see Deckard's transformation. He is wounded from Leon's beating, but he is not only bruised, he is vulnerable. After Deckard's showdown with Roy, he is left vulnerable again. Gaff, who did nothing but view Deckard as an annoyance, now provides Deckard with the final piece of his transformation.
I guess you're through, huh?
Finished.
Deckard does not want to be a villain, but then again, who does? Roy Batty is not a hero in the same way you might think of Superman or even a firefighter. Roy Batty kills people. He taunts them. He uses them. However, in contrast, Roy is afraid of death. One of the first things Roy says to an associate of his former captors is a deliberate misquoting of William Blake's America, a Prophecy. Roy feels cast out, and like the fallen Lucifer, he finds himself among mortal men, wallowing in their foibles and failings. It doesn't take long for Roy to let his frustration consume him. Finding out he was meant for nothing more than heavy lifting and menial chores would be infuriating to just about anybody. When Roy and Pris visit with Sebastian the toy maker, Roy becomes very childlike. Sebastian asks them to do tricks and show him their enhanced abilities. "We're not computers," Roy tells him. "We're physical." Sebastian takes Roy to visit Tyrell, the man at the top of the pyramid. Tyrell knows exactly who Roy is. Now, if your creator, no matter the form it would take for you, told you that your imperfections are by design and you cannot grow beyond what you were made as, you would probably feel rejected. Being created to survive is not enough for Roy. He wants to live. Tyrell tells Roy that he has done extraordinary things and that he should revel in them. This does not sit well with Roy. He kisses his father, then crushes him. He destroys the God that created him. Roy is left alone again, feeling more disconnected than ever. The cat and mouse game through the building with Deckard does more than just serve as an exciting chase scene. It reveals that Roy, for maybe the first time, feels like he has a sense of purpose, even if it is something as simple and primal as revenge. He knows he is dying and uses these final minutes to focus on that purpose. The power overtakes him, and he says to himself, "If I'm going to die, you're coming with me on my terms. That is why he makes it last, taunting Deckard and leading him to desperate heights such as leaping from rooftops. Roy is on the hunt, reversing the roles of predator and prey. Why does Roy save Deckard? He could easily let him plummet to his death and be rid of him. Roy has become enlightened in his brief time on Earth. Before he grabs Deckard out of the air, as he hangs by a thread, Roy lets him know something singular and important. Roy saves Deckard so he can truly save him. Roy saves Deckard so he can at long last feel a connection with another person. Yes, Roy is a person, so like him in most every way that you have to get to the subatomic level to see the difference. Deckard understands Roy does not want to die alone. But then again, who does? So, let's answer the big question. Is Deckard a replicant? There are actually 3 possible answers. There's yes, there's no, and there's it doesn't matter. My personal take is yes, he is. But more than that, I think everyone is a replicant with the exception of Gaff. Gaff is certainly human to me. He acts more human than anyone. He has hobbies. He gets impatient. He knows what your dreams are. To me, that is how we know. There is a theory that Deckard's memories are made up from Gaff's, and that is how Gaff knows what is going on in Deckard's head. Interesting, but I will leave you to ponder that should you decide to revisit the film. Deckard's reveal as a replicant is ironic. A reveal like Darth Vader telling Luke he is his father changes everything. This moment is powerful because it changes nothing. Deckard being a replicant is not any sort of game changer. Deckard has learned to cherish life and not just let it pass him by. He has become more than what he thought he could be. He overcame his own limitations. Nothing changes in the story because he is a replicant. The story changes because he is not the same man we saw in the beginning. He now has hope and a clear path and someone to share it with. Even with all his flaws and emotional cripplings, Deckard chooses love. A love for Rachel, for life, for love itself. The final cut is the version I prefer. The removal of voiceover is a perfect example of less is more. I find voiceover to be flaccid, sloppy writing, and too often a "here comes the airplane" spoon feeding to the audience. There are examples where it is used effectively, but here it just doesn't serve anything other than to tell the audience what they are quite capable of figuring out for themselves if they are paying attention, and people who cannot pay attention should not go to the movies. You must respect your audience enough to forget them, but not ignore them or their intelligence. The happy ending being removed is also a great way to show more by telling less. When I first saw this movie as a teenager, I thought it was boring and unwatchable. I was more into Batman and Star Wars. This is a movie for adults. I always try to make an event of watching it. Lights down, volume up. So is it a flawed film? Yes. Even in its final version. There's an abundance of ambiguity and unanswered questions. The absence of a real human connection between the audience and Deckard can be argued either as a lack of care on the part of the director and or the actor, or it can be viewed as a moving metaphor in regard to Deckard's disconnect with the world around him and more specifically humanity. Deckard says in the beginning of the film that if replicants are a benefit, they are not his problem. Roy Batty became a benefit to him. Roy not only saved his life, he changed the way Deckard lived his life, and feeling less alone in the world. Rachel became a benefit and saved him from being less alone in the world.